إن الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن والاه وبعد. My dear brothers and sisters, it is the great mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala permits us to speak about and to remember and recall His Nabi Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, because the Seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Jalla Jalaluhu ordered us to study. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who told us to study the Seerah. Allah is the one who told us that the life of His Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the best example for us to follow. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. Allah said, the best example, verily in the life of my Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you have a fine example, you have the best example. Uswatun hasana liman kana yarjullaha wal yawmal akhira wa zakarallaha kathira. For the one who looks forward to the meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and who looks forward to the day of judgment. As I have mentioned many times before, the only one who can look forward to something is the one who expects a good return from that situation or from that person. And then Allah said, وَذَكَرَ اللَّهَ كَثِيرًا. And this person who looks forward to the meeting with Allah, who looks forward to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to the day of judgment, the day of jaza, is the person who also is engaged constantly in the dhikr of Allah. So being engaged in the dhikr of Allah means to constantly be concerned about the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in everything. So dhikrullah is not to be taken, and I mean no intelligent person will consider that, but just to clarify, it doesn't just mean reading some wazifa, or doesn't mean attending some majlis once a week or whatever the case might be. It means to constantly 24/7 be aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Jalla Jalaluhu in our lives, and to be constantly concerned about pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, especially when it comes to issues and cases and incidents and decisions where the pleasure of the people, where the pleasure and approval of society, of family or whoever might be one of the things that we consider. It is not, I'm not saying that you should never consider the approval or pleasure of your family and so on. Definitely we should do that because we need to honor our people, but we must never consider that, and we must never give it precedence over the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Jalla Jalaluhu. This is very, very critical, very important, because if we give precedence to that over the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is where the corruption starts, and that is where trouble starts, because you are giving to the makhluk a position which is worthy only of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ita'at, ibadah in Arabic is used both for worship and ita'at. So when you do the ita'at of somebody, then you are in effect you are in effect following that person, and you are worshipping that person, not worshipping in the sense of making sujood to that person, but you are obeying that person. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that in the ayat ayat where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, He mentioned the Christians where arbabam min dunillah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said they have taken gods other than Allah as objects of worship. So Adi bin Hatim radiallahu anhu, later on he became Muslim, but Adi bin Hatim was from the tribe of At-Tai, the same tribe as the famous man Hatim At-Tai, who was known in Arabia as the most generous of people. And there's a wonderful story about him and his horse and so on. So he came, Adi bin Hatim, when he came to meet Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Medina, at that time he was Christian, and he had a big cross hanging around his neck on a chain. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he saw Adi bin Hatim, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam recited this ayah. And he said that Allah said that the Christians are people who have taken their monks and their priests as gods other than Allah. So Adi bin Hatim said, Ya Rasulullah, this is not true. We do not worship our priests. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to him, is it not true that your priests that Allah made something halal and your priest made it haram. Your priest prohibited that. Is this not true? So Adi bin Hatim said, yes, that is true. Then he said, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, is it not true that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited some things, but your priests declared it to be halal? Is this not correct? They said, yes, it is correct. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, this is the meaning of ibadah. To obey someone against the order of Allah is to worship that person instead of Allah. To obey a desire which goes against the hukum of Allah is to worship the desire instead of worshipping Allah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called this shirk. Allah said, أَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَى. Allah said, have you not seen those who have taken their desires as object of worship? Now if you say, well, how can I worship my desire? So for example, if your desire is to gamble, is to play cards for money or bet money on racehorses or whatever, then obviously the person is not putting a pack of cards there and making sajda to the cards. He's not doing that. He's not standing a horse there and making a sujud to the horse. He's not doing that. A person who's drinking alcohol, he's not taking a bottle of whiskey and then making sajda to the whiskey. No. But he knows Allah has made gambling haram. Why did Allah make gambling haram? Does it bother Allah? Does it trouble Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Is there any loss for Allah? No. Gambling is something which destroys families, which destroys human beings, which fries your brain. I mean, if you even have a brain in that sense, where you are throwing money in a situation where you know for a fact. The reason why gambling is a huge business is because the people organizing the gambling are winning. Gambling cannot be a business, and any business will succeed only if it is profitable. And profitable meaning what? For whom? For the people who run that business. No, I mean, otherwise how is a business? There is no business that can be profitable if it is making losses for the people running the business. So who are the people running the casino owners, the bookkeepers, the people running the whole gambling system? These are the people who gain. Sure, somebody will win a jackpot, $1 million. For every $1 million you win, they are winning $1 billion. Which you don't see. I mean, you don't see because you're blind. Because obviously, it's just logic, simple logic. How does that business function? It functions like any other business because of profit. So now you've got this, this temptation to put some money on something, to play cards for money or whatever, and the hukum of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Al-khamru wal-maysiru wal-ansabu wal-azlamu rijusum min amali shaitani fajtanibu. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, khamr, which is alcohol, and which also refers to everything that any substance that produces intoxication. So it refers to any form of drugs, any kind of drug, whether you smoke it or you inhale it or you inject it or whatever the case might be. It refers to alcohol or all products of alcohol. It refers to tobacco. It refers to cigarettes. It refers to chewing tobacco, which has serotonins in it, and so on and so forth. All kinds of intoxicating substances. Al-khamr wal-maisir, which is gambling. All forms of gambling. Whether you are gambling on horses or rats or mice or dogs or dog races, hound races, or whether you are gambling with cards or whatever the case might be. If there are 2 drops of rainwater on the window pane and they are coming down, and you are putting a bet and saying, I think the one on the left will come down faster than the one on the right, this is gambling. Doesn't have to be a whole syndicate or some place you are. No, this is gambling. If 2 people sit there and say, I'll give you $10 if this thing comes out, that is gambling. That is haram, haram, haram. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Ansab wal asla, people who fortune seeking. So all forms of palmistry and numerology and whatever. I mean, all kinds of things, that horoscopes, astrology, Vastu, Feng Shui, all of these are completely and totally haram. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used Amazing, two very, very amazing terms. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Rijsum min amali shaitan. Allah said that these are the worst of the deeds of shaitan. Now think about this. Every deed of shaitan is bad. Yeah, does shaitan ever do any good deeds? No. But in the deeds and among the deeds of shaitan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying these are the worst. So even among the deeds of shaitan, if you were to prioritize them or give them some kind of order of precedence, this would be at the bottom. These are the worst of the deeds of shaitan. Rijsum min amali shaitan. And then what did Allah say? Allah did not say, don't do them. Allah did not say. Allah said, fajtanibu. Allah said, stay far away from them. Stay far away. Which means that not only should you not gamble on horses, you should not even go to a place where gambling takes place. People say, no, can I go to the race course just to see the horses run? My point is, if it is a race course where horses are just running for the heck of it, people are just going to watch the beauty of there's nothing more beautiful than a horse running. Believe me, I ride horses. It's very, very wonderful to ride them, it's wonderful to see them. But if there is gambling happening in that place is attracting the itab and the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why do you want to go there? Fajtanibu, stay far away. I'm building a house. I'm not building. These are our typical Muslim excuses. I know I don't believe in Vastu, but I'm building it because otherwise I can't give it on rent. People will come and when they are renting the house, they say, is it according to Vastu? And then only they will rent. I don't believe in Vastu. What do you mean you don't believe in Vastu? What do you mean by saying you do not believe in Vastu? You believe in Vastu. This is belief in Vastu. It is belief in Vastu that Vastu will get you a rental income. That Vastu will get you tenants. This is belief in Vastu. What else is it? Allah does not exist for you. Vastu exists for you. I don't believe in Vastu. What do you mean? You are believing in Vastu. You are believing in Vastu. You are committing shirk. Because you are saying unless the house is built on Vastu, people will not come to rent. What is this if it is not belief in Vastu? Please explain. This is ibadah of something other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is shirk. Total open shirk. Same thing with Feng Shui, same thing with whatever exists which I don't know about, alhamdulillah, and whatever might be invented after I'm dead and gone. Same rule applies till the day of judgment. And my point is, don't believe me. I don't care. As far as I'm concerned, I will say what has to be said. I'm not compelling you. Most welcome. Build houses according to Vastu. Do whatever you want. Because when you go into your qabr, you will go alone. You will go alone. And I don't think your qabr is according to Vastu. Why don't you do that also? Make your qabr according to Vastu. Put the fire outside the qabr. In Vastu there is fire also. So put the fire outside qabr. Put only an air conditioning outlet from your house. I mean, have some shame. Inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un. Have some shame. Kuch to sharam karo, haya karo. Arey la ilaha illallah ka kuch to ehtaram karo. Kuch to uski qadar karo. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned this and He said this. So, what does it mean? Why did we come to all this? Because we are talking about the issue of zikrullah. So, who is the person who does zikr of Allah? The person who is constantly aware of this, of the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is constantly concerned about the pleasure of Allah, who is aware of the presence of Allah in his life, and he is constantly aware. It's not only in one place. When he comes to the masjid or listening to a bayan, or no. Continuously, in every single aspect of his life, the person is saying, is Allah pleased with me? Why? Because he knows Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. And the person knows that whatever I am doing, whatever Allah has asked me to do, is for my benefit, not for the benefit of Allah, na'udhu billah, because Allah huwa samad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is free from all wants and all needs, including our ibadah and our ita'at. So ibadah and itaat are the same thing. Itaat of somebody other than Allah is ibadah of that person other than Allah. I've given you the dalail of this from the Quran, and therefore my job as far as informing is concerned is over. Now please think about that and say, what is it that I am doing which I should not be doing? Now, so Alhamdulillah, we were talking about the concern for meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the concern for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ذكر الله كثيرا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned this with regard to the Seerah. So why did we come to even this? Because we are talking about this Seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and as I told you that it is the mercy and pleasure of of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah Jalla Jalaluhu granted us this opportunity to spend some time reflecting on, thinking on, learning about the beautiful life of his Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because it is beneficial for us to do that. It is something that Allah told us to do. And since Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us to do it and we do it, therefore it is an ibadah. So to study the Seerah is ibadah. Alhamdulillah, you are sitting in a masjid and doing that, which is even more afdal. Obviously you can do this anywhere else. This is also one of the amal of the Sahaba, Ridwanullahi alayhim ajmain. The son of Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas radiallahu anhu says that our father used to gather us together, the whole family, and he would tell us about the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He would speak about the maghazi of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He would speak about the times when Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam went in different ghazwat, and so on and so forth. It was the practice of the Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhim ajmain that they would speak to each other, they would remind each other about the actions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So in any case, in any situation, if they had a doubt, they would ask one another and they would say, well, do you know what Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam would have done in this case? Do you know what he used to do? Does anyone know anything about how he dealt with this or that? So this was the way of the Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhim ajmain. And they followed the Sunnah, they followed the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam completely and totally in every single aspect. To the extent that they used to race with one another, they used to try to excel one another in imitating or emulating Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in every single thing. The person about whom this is said with the greatest of honors is Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma, the son of Yawar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, where Sayyidah Aisha Siddiqa radiallahu anha said that I have never seen anyone among the Sahaba who follows the Sunnah as closely as Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu. To the extent that Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu is going somewhere on his camel, and at a particular place he stops the camel, makes the camel do 2 turns, and then the camel sits, and Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu gets off, dismounts from the camel, and he prays 2 rakat of salah in that place. Some random place. I mean, it's not as if it's some masjid or something, something. So somebody asked him, what is this? Why did the camel turn around? Why did you make your camel turn around twice? Not the normal way. The normal way you stop the camel, make it kneel, and you get off. But you made him turn around twice, and then you pray 2 rakat of nafil salah for what? He said, one day I was with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I saw that his camel came to this place, and before he dismounted, the camel turned around twice, and then Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam dismounted, and Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam prayed 2 rakat of nafil salah. Now my point is, people in this world today might say, well, so what? The camel turned around twice. I mean, what the hell is that? So what? Am I following the camel? So what if he turned around twice or 10 times or 50 times? I mean, the camel did something, and just pray 2 rakat of salah. But this was the hallmark of the Sahaba. They did not ask these questions. They were in complete obedience to Allah and His Nabi. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what did Allah say about obedience and emulation of His Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Allah said, قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَاتَّبِعُونِي. Allah said, say to them, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, say to them who? قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ. Say to those who say they love Allah. Say to the people who claim to be bhakts of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The bhakti movement in India was what? This was love of God. So people they wrote poetry and they danced and they did all kinds of things, and their niyat inshallah was good. They were trying to please God, but they were doing it was in the wrong direction, wrong things. So, Allah is saying, say to those who claim to love Allah, Fattabi'uni, emulate me, imitate me. Imitate who? Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's saying, you say to them, let them imitate you. In what? Emulate me in salah? No. Emulate me in how I do business? No. Emulate me in how I am at home with my wives and children? No. Emulate me in what I do when I go to war? No. Emulate me in what? तुम लोग सब आफ्टर द इवेंट आदमी आके सामने पूरा फिरे तक सोते रहते, क्या करते? पहले से बोलना नहीं. So emulate me in what? Everything. All of the above. All of the above. Then what will happen? Yuhibbukumullah. Then Allah will love you. And if Allah loves you, what happens? Yaghfir lakum dhunubakum wallahu ghafurur rahim. First thing, if Allah loves you, minimum not in any form of, I don't mean this to reduce it in any way, because there's nothing minimum about forgiveness of all sins. Meaning the first thing that will happen is all your sins are forgiven. And Allah is the one who is the most forgiving. In addition to that, what about the dua of the one who Allah loves? What about the honor that the world will give to the one who Allah loves? That's why whenever I have mentioned this ayah, many of you are, who have heard me before, I always say, just reflect on this one single thing. Just sit down and think, what is the meaning of, what is the feeling of Allah loves me? What is the feeling? And see the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, see the barakah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in our lives, if we can only appreciate it. Tell me who in this world, apart from some hardcore atheist who does not believe in reality, which is Allah, but anyone who is of any religion, you go and ask him, do you want God to love you? What will he say? It's a dumb question. I mean, obviously, yes. But do you know if God loves you? Do you know for certain? Nobody can know. Except the Muslim, inshallah. Now, that does not mean you claim it for yourself, but I'm saying, except why? Because Allah showed us. Fattabi'uni. Make my ittiba. So if there is a Muslim who is trying to emulate Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam in every single thing in his life, then insha'Allah al-musta'an, his Rabb loves him and his Rabb said so. Allah told us and showed us the way. You want Allah to love you? What must you do? Emulate and imitate Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In what? In everything. Abdullah ibn Umar is going down a street. At one point, he's on his camel, mounted on his camel, he's going down a street. At one point in time, he bends down like this. And then he straightens up. So people said, what happened to you? Why did you bend down like this? He says, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was alive, there was a time when he was going down the street. At that time, there was a tree here and there was a branch extending across the street. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's camel went under the branch, so Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam bent down to get under the branch. Is the tree still there? No. Is there a branch? When there is no tree, so there can't be any branch. Why did you bend down? Were you trying to clear something? Between you, your head and the heavens, there is no barrier, right? So why did you bend down? There is no reason for love. There is no reason for love. Ask the mothers of our many brats, 4 years old and 40 years old, who walk the earth. Why do they love them? Seriously. I mean, if I was the mother, I would have put a bullet in his brain. I mean, it's simple as that. But I'm not the mother. Thank God, thankfully for myself and for that person. Why does the mother love? Is the mother mad? Is the woman crazy? Does she not know that her son is a absolutely useless creature who's... They know all that. They're not fools. They can't help it. They can't help it. Love is what happens despite everything. So what about a situation where there is no despite? You don't love Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam despite anything. You love Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam because of everything. So how much more intense must be that love? And that's why there is no way, people like me, we can only describe what the Sahaba felt for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And these are only words. Do I even understand that? I don't understand. I'm like a parrot. I repeat the words. And I make this dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I make this dua. मैं बोलता हूँ या अल्लाह मैं तेरा तोता, तोते का काम बोलना, अमल करना नहीं, तो अमल में मत पकड़. I make this dua. I say, oh Allah, I'm your parrot. The job of the parrot is to speak. It's not to act on anything. Nobody holds the parrot responsible for action. Speaking. Did it speak properly? Yeah. Khalas. So do I understand love for Muhammad? Do I understand what the Sahaba felt? No. But I repeat and I repeat and I repeat in the hope that my Rabb will be pleased. अच्छा तोता है, अच्छी बात करता था, बस और कुछ नहीं. And that is the reason why we need to study the Seerah, because how can you love somebody you don't know? You need to study the Seerah. You need to introduce your Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to yourself and to your family, because you cannot love Allah unless you know Allah. And you cannot love Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam unless you know Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You cannot love anyone unless you know them. So why do we study the Seerah? So we know Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it is the hallmark of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he is one of those, or he is the only one, and I'm saying one of those because those who emulated him and those who followed him are also blessed with this barakah, which is that it is the state of most people in this world that the more you know them, the closer you are to them, the more you know about the details of their lives, the more you see them on a real-time basis, actually your love and respect for them decreases. As I mentioned, I think in one of the Seerah lectures before in English, there is a saying, it says, familiarity breeds contempt. The more familiar you are with a person, the more you start disliking that person, because now intimate details become visible. This is one of the major issues with marriages. Because before you got married, when you were courting in whatever way, Islamically or un-Islamically or whatever, may Allah protect us from everything which is not Islamic. But the point is that both husband and wife were on their best behavior. So you never saw the downside of someone. But once you got married, now there are no barriers, there are no curtains between you, and suddenly you realize, oh my God, this is the situation. This man behaves like this, and this woman behaves like this, and so on and so forth. Sometimes it's not serious issues, but it's small issues, but those small issues are extremely irritating, and so on and so forth, and this results in tension in the marriage. But Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the only one, and those who emulated him among the Sahaba, who are the Sahaba, are the people for whom this equation was the opposite. The more you know Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the more you love Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The more you know Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman and Ali and Talha and Zubair and Abdul Rahman bin Auf and Sa'd bin Mu'adh and Sa'd bin Jabal radiyallahu anhu ajma'in, and all those I have not mentioned, the more you know them closely, the more you love them. And that's the reason why it's so important to study the Seerah and to study the lives of the Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'in. And that is the reason why we are here. We are here to study the Seerah. We are here to try to understand this great ni'mah called Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent to us in order to elevate us and in order to bless us and in order to open for us the doors leading to love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and love for His Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So now we come to we spoke yesterday about Sulh Hudaybiyah, and today we come to Fath Makkah. As I mentioned to you yesterday, Sulh Hudaybiyah was the exam and Fath Makkah was the prize. Makkah was the prize of passing that exam. For those of you who are interested in the dates, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam left Medina for Makkah on the 6th of Ramadan and actually entered Makkah on the 19th or 20th of Ramadan, which corresponds to the 11th of January, 630 of the Qamar Julian calendar, and 8 Hijri. Once again, like I said yesterday, I'm not going to go into all the details of all the things that happened leading to the conquest of Makkah, the Fatah of Makkah, opening of Makkah, but just to give you a very quick and broad overview so that we have a sense of what was happening. And once again, try and put yourself in that situation so that you're not just listening to words, but you're trying to get as much of that experience in yourself as possible. There was a man called Muawiyah bin Nawfal ad-Du'ayli who attacked some people from the tribe of Khuzah. Now Khuzah was the tribe which was allied with Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. They were people who were allied with the Quraysh, and especially in Quraysh they were allies of Abdul Muttalib and allies of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So this man, he and some people with him, they attacked these people when they were close to the boundary of Haram. Now, as you know, the boundary of Haram is, it's called Haram because it is sanctified. It's all violence and all carrying of arms and hunting and killing and fighting is all prohibited within the boundary of Haram. So even tribes which are traditional enemies and used to be at war with each other, once they came into the Haram for Umrah or for Hajj, they were protected and they were free from any harm from each other. But so these people were close to the Haram. So obviously when they were attacked by this Muawiyah bin Nawfal, they ran and they entered Haram. They entered the boundary of Haram. So Muawiyah bin Nawfal told his people, follow them, hot pursuit. So the people refused. They said, no, we can't kill people inside the Haram. So this man, he taunted them. He said, you steal inside the Haram, you go and do things and so on. So what's so great about not, and you're complaining now about taking revenge, and this is revenge and we have to, whatever they had done, so kill these people. Now some of the Quraysh who knew the sanctity of the Haram more than anybody else because they were the custodians of the Kaaba, they also took part in this killing, and they gave some arms also to Banu Bakr who were allied with this man, and they said, don't worry, it's a night now and Muhammad will not know, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Why was they saying that? Because they knew that the Treaty of Hudaybiyah protected the allies of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam from any harm from the Quraysh and vice versa. So there was a treaty that we will not fight each other, we will not kill each other, and these people, the Khuzah, were allies of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, so they could not be harmed by the Quraysh. They knew this, but they said, no, it's night, don't worry, so kill them. Now obviously they did not know Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was receiving wahi about this. So he knew what was going on. Now, so the people ran away, they entered Makkah itself, and they took refuge in the house of a man by the name of Badil bin Waraka al-Khuzai. Now Amr bin Salim al-Khuzai, who was there, when he heard this whole story, he immediately left for Medina and he came and met Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he recited some lines of poetry and reminded him of their alliance with his great grandfather. So which means it's an alliance that is coming down in their own family and lineage. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam heard him and he said, "Don't worry, you will be helped, Ya Amr bin Salam." So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam considered this action as a breach of the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, which it was. Now Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam then started preparing for war. He made dua and he said, "Oh Allah, blind these people and conceal our advance from them." So the Quraysh did not learn about this whole preparation, did not learn about this advance on Makkah until the army of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was on the outskirts of Makkah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hid this from them. Aisha radiallahu anha was preparing some flour and so on, and she was preparing rations for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to go to war. Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu entered the house and he asked her what she was doing. She did not tell him. Now this shows us also the concept of loyalty to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the concept of keeping confidences, the issue of being trustworthy. Who is Aisha radiallahu anha? She is the wife of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, our mother, and she is also the daughter of Abu Bakr Siddiq. Who is Abu Bakr Siddiq? The number one closest companion and friend of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it's not as if Aisha Siddiqa radiallahu anha was asked for some details by some suspicious person. No. She was asked what she was doing, because she was obviously, Abu Bakr Siddiq could see that this was not the usual preparing of lunch or something. So she was asked, she knows who is asking, she knows her own relationship to that person, she is his daughter, she knows who he is in terms of Islam, she knows the person's relationship to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is the closest of all relationships. Despite that, she protects her trust. She protects the information that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave her. This is the meaning of maintaining of trust. This is the meaning of being trustworthy, of maintaining confidences of people. If somebody tells you something in confidence, there is no way, and if you go and betray that confidence, if you go and tell someone else without the permission of the person who told you, it can be as simple a thing as if I give you my phone number and I say, please don't give this to anybody, and you give it to somebody else, then you have committed a major sin in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because you have betrayed a confidence. Something was given to you in confidence. It's not as if my telephone number is a national secret or something. No. But I gave it to you and I said, please keep this confidential, please don't give it to anybody. I send you an email and I write there, not for circulation. These things have happened. I say not for circulation. Not because I'm afraid of I'm not afraid of what I write. I write what I want to write and I know. But it is the hikmah and wisdom. Where Imam An-Nawawi rahmatullah alayhi said, not everything which is the truth is to be told to everyone. And he says, not everything that you hear, even if it is the truth, is to be broadcast. So it's not a question of whether something is true or not. It may be true. But if you are going to speak that truth before people who do not have the capacity to understand that truth will actually mislead them instead of guiding them. So it is the wisdom of the teacher to say that which is beneficial to the people, that which people can understand. It's only the foolish teachers and it's people who are really teaching for their own nafs to show off their so-called knowledge, that they will say all kinds of things to all kinds of people and they feel very happy when everybody is very confused, because it means, oh, see, I have got so much knowledge, these people are fools. You are the fool. They are not fools. You are the fool because you speak things that you know people are not going to understand. Why do you say those things? So I send out a mail on some particular issue to a few people who I respect and whose opinion I want, and I write there very clearly, not for circulation. Next thing I know, the mail comes to me from some random source. Sheikh, you said this, what does it mean? I said, why are you even reading this? Why did this mail even come to you? Respecting confidences. And this is what Aisha Siddiqa radiallahu anha is doing with her own father. So, she did not say anything. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam entered. He came. And Abu Bakr Siddiq said, Ya Rasulullah, what is happening? And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him. Because that is now Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam's reality. He has the right to say it to whoever he wants. He owns that information. So he can say it to anybody. Aisha Siddiqa radiallahu anha is a trustee of the information. She does not own the information. So she can't give it to anybody she wants. She can only give it to who Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam authorizes her to give it to. So Abu Bakr Siddiq was told, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, we are going to war against Makkah. And then he said, and you will see Abu Sufyan will come to try to renew the Sulh of Hudaybiyah. He will try to come to renew the pact. Right? Now, that's what happened. So Abu Sufyan, obviously he saw what, he knew what was happening at this attack and so on. He knew this is serious matters. And it's, if it gets out of hand, the next thing we know, we'll have an army at our doorstep. So he came to Medina. This is now about 17 or 18 months since Hudaybiyah happened. So when Abu Sufyan came, later of course he became Muslim, radiallahu anhu. So when he came, he went first to his own daughter's house, who is the wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Habiba. He went to her house, and there was a rug on the floor. So Abu Sufyan was about to step on the rug to sit on it. Habiba pulled it off, she rolled it up and she pulled it away. So Abu Sufyan jokingly, he said, is it because this rug is not fit for me, or is it because I am not fit for the rug? He said, you removed it because is the rug not fit for me, or is it because I am not fit for the rug? Habiba said, you are not fit for the rug. He said, this is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's bistar. He says he lies down on it, and you are not fit to sit on the rug of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now that is a level of loyalty that they had to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Later on, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam heard this comment and so on and so forth, he was not pleased. And he told her, you should not speak like this to your father. So that's a different issue. But this was her level of loyalty to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the Abu Sufyan then went to meet Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said, I have come to renew Hudaybiyah. So Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, why? Has anything happened? I mean, he pretended not to know. He knew what was going on. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent him wahi. Because the point is, Hudaybiyah was a treaty for 10 years. Now it's less than 2 years. It's now only 17, 18 months. So where is the question of renewal? Why are you here to renew? Renew meaning what? So he said, has anything happened? Now Abu Sufyan didn't have the courage to tell him what actually happened. Because he probably guessed that, he's only asking this, he knows already. So he said, no, nothing has happened. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam walked away. He didn't want to get into, an argument with him and prove him to be a liar. See, we have to understand this thing. You see, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam could have humiliated Abu Sufyan right there. He could have humiliated Abu Sufyan, because first of all, Abu Sufyan is in Medina. Medina is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's place. He is the king, he is the ruler. Abu Sufyan has no standing, has no position, no place, he is alone there. Secondly, Abu Sufyan is obviously telling a lie. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave him a chance. You want to renew the pledge? Why? Has anything happened? So this is an opening, this door. He could have said, Ya Rasulullah, I am extremely sorry this happened. Please forgive us. Beyond my control, I didn't even know these people did this thing. I can't keep everybody under control. I am very sorry. I apologize to you. He could have done all of this. He did not do that. For whatever reason, Allah, maybe he felt ashamed. He didn't have the courage to say it. Whatever the reason might be, he didn't do that. He said, no, nothing has happened. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was receiving wahi. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam could have told him in detail what exactly happened, and he could have told him, you are a liar, you are a cheat, you came here because of this. He could have insulted and humiliated Abu Sufyan. He did not do any of that. Imagine, this is the akhlaq of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Even when the enemy is in your control, and this is a man who has not left a stone unturned to harm you. He has done everything possible to harm you. Even when he is in your control, you still do not humiliate him. So he just got up and walked away. He didn't say anything to him. So now Abu Sufyan is obviously very worried. So he went to Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu, and he said, please intercede. Because now they know. So he said, please intercede with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Tell him to renew the pact. Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu threw him out. He said, go away. I'm not talking about this Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Abu Bakr Siddiq in any case knew that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had decided to go to war. He said, go away. Then he went to, Abu Sufyan went to Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu. Now incidentally, this is also something on a side note to remember, that the hierarchy was Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, after that Abu Bakr, and after that Umar, and all the Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhim ajmain, they all knew this. The non-Sahaba knew this, the Kuffar knew this, the Mushrikeen knew this, everyone in Arabia knew this. There was no doubt about any of this. So today when we get all kinds of, with respect to the Khilafah, when you get objections from the Shia and so on, that Ali radiallahu anhu should have been the Khalifa, where is the history for that? Where is the history for that? This does not mean that we do not respect the position of Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu anhu. Of course we respect it. He is a man of the greatest of honor. But Adil, justice, is to give honor to the one who deserves it, to the level that he deserves it. So in the hierarchy and in the understanding of the Sahaba, who had precedence? Abu Bakr or Ali? It was Abu Bakr. No one had any doubt in their minds whatsoever. Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu had precedence over Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu anhu because he was closer to Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Even though he was not directly related, he was closer to him, closest to him. He was older, he was more learned, he was the sahib in the ghar with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Ghar Thawr, and so on and so forth. So even Abu Sufyan knew this. So after he left Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he went to Abu Bakr Siddiq. When Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu refused to intercede for him, he went to Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu. Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu said to him that you want me to intercede for you with Rasulullah? He said, Wallahi, if I have only ants to fight you, I will fight you. He said, forget about interceding. He said, if I have only ants, I will bring those ants and fight you. He said, don't even think about coming to me with this. So now Abu Sufyan, imagine, who is Abu Sufyan? Abu Sufyan is the head of the greatest of the Qabail of Jaziratul Arab, Quraysh. And he is now humiliated, he is going from house to house begging. So then he went to Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu anhu, and he started to ask him to intercede. So Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu anhu said, woe to you, Abu Sufyan, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has decided on a matter, we cannot speak to him about anything. So Fatima radiallahu anha was there, and she was her little son Hassan ibn Ali radiallahu anhu, he was a little boy, small, he was maybe a year old or whatever. So she was playing with her son. So Abu Sufyan says to Fatima, imagine Abu Sufyan's situation. He says to Fatima, can you ask your son to give me protection? Can you ask your son to give protection to the people, meaning to the Quraysh? And this will make him the leader of the Arabs for all time. She's asking him to get Hassan radiallahu anhu to stand against Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I mean, the thing is, in that anxiety, in that terror, Abu Sufyan sort of lost his mind. So Fatima radiallahu anha said, my son is too young to give protection to anybody. And he said, in any case, once Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has decided to fight, nobody can give protection. So then Abu Sufyan said, Ya Abul Hasan, he's now talking to Ali ibn Abi Talib. He said, Ya Abul Hasan, things are getting tough. So please give me some advice. So Ali radiallahu anhu said, look, you are the head of Banu Kinana and your people are here in Medina. So he said, why don't you go to the masjid and give protection to your own people? So I mean, call your own people. So Abu Sufyan went to the masjid and he called and said, he called the Banu Kinana and he said, come to me and I will give protection to you. No one came. Nobody came. So he came back to Sayyidina Ali. He said, tell me, what can I do? What can do me any good? Ali bin Abi Talib said, nothing can do you any good. So when he went back to Makkah, there was nothing else for him to do. So he went back to Makkah and he narrated this whole story to his people. So the people said, did Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam give you permission to go into the masjid and call Banu Kinana and so on? He said, no, he didn't give permission. So he said that Ali bin Abi Talib was only playing with you. He made a fool of you. That is all. And you allowed him to make a fool of yourself. He said, how can anybody give you protection when Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam has not allowed it? Now here again, see the magnanimity of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Here is Abu Sufyan entering Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's masjid and calling people saying, come, I will give you protection, meaning what? Stand up with me against Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's the meaning. Where is he doing it? Not even anywhere else. In the masjid of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in Masjid al-Nabawi. What do you think Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam should have done, or what do you think anyone would do? What did Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam do? Nothing. No problem. Please, you want to come stand here and raise your voice against me? Go ahead. No problem. Allah. See when people talk about confidence, they say we should have. This is the sign of confidence is to do nothing. The sign of confidence is not to react. Today we think we are being very brave. Somebody says something, muh tod jawab diya. Muh tod jawab is not confidence. Muh tod jawab is actually to give credit and credibility to the other person. The dog barked, so now you start barking. Because the dog is so significant for you when he is barking. So you have to give significance to the dog. The dog is barking, what do you want me to do? Let him bark. I don't bark. Even if I understand the language of dogs, I don't bark. The opinion of dogs doesn't matter. So I'm not teaching you to look down on anybody and call people dogs, because it depends on who's a dog. But I'm saying that confidence means to have enough reliance and enough knowledge about yourself and about your position, and to be convinced about its truth, that you do not have to keep defending it over and over and over all the time, every time somebody says something. Today, as a people, we have become puppets. Reactionary. For everything, reaction, reaction, reaction. So the world is playing with us like a puppeteer plays with puppets. They want to make Muslims jump up and down for something. They say something. They do something. And true to form, immediately you will have some loose cannon alim who sends off a completely idiotic fatwa, or you will have somebody who will go and burn something, or you have somebody who goes and shoots up something, or you have inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un. And your action actually causes more damage to Islam than whatever stupidity that somebody did. Right? Some fellow draws cartoons, and please notice my language. Did I say cartoons of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Did I say that? No. Because how can there be cartoons of the Nabi? How can there be cartoons of the Nabi? Was he like that? Then anyone can draw anything and claim this is Muhammad, this is Yawar, this is so and so, this is Azhar. You draw something, you claim that is true. So what do? You go and shoot up the place. You kill 20 people. So now, in the eyes of the world, which is worse? In the eyes of Allah, which is worse? Some man or woman who did not even believe in Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they were not Muslim, they did not know who Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was, because if they knew, they would never do that. I'll give you examples. Anne-Marie Schimmel, the head of Islamic studies in Harvard. For years, she wrote many things. She wrote a book on the Seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Very nice book. Karen Armstrong, who is there now, she wrote a book, Prophet of Our Times, on Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Did Anne-Marie Schimmel, I'm giving you examples of non-Muslims. Anne-Marie Schimmel was a Protestant Christian. She died on her religion, Wallah Alam, what her last moments were, but as far as we know, she died on Christianity. So she is not a Muslim. Did she ever draw cartoons of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Na'udhu. People who know Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam don't do these things. You have some cartoonist, some idiot who does not understand, the poor guy, he draws some cartoons. At worst, what is it? Tell me that cartoon, because of that cartoon, did you start believing that cartoon? Did anyone with sense, did anyone who knows Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, do you think they believed in this cartoon? So who believed in this cartoon? People who don't know Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So what should be our job? What must we do as Muslims? Tell people about Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Someone draws the cartoon, you say, no problem. Keep your cartoon. Come sit here. Let me tell you who Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was. Let me tell you who Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was. I'm not saying you did a wrong thing. No. Doesn't matter. You did something. No problem. Give it. Come, sit here. Imagine what would be the effect on the world. You take the wind out of their sails. They want to infuriate you. Instead of infuriating, you are smiling. Instead of infuriating, you are calling them, come. There was a beautiful incident in America where there was this armed protest at one of the masajid. And all big banners throughout the Sharia. There is no Sharia. What are you going to throw out anyway? I mean, people don't even know what their law is. And people with guns and so on. So what did the masjid people do? They set out some tables and they put some cakes and coffee and whatnot. They invited those people. They said, please come inside. They said, what? We are here to protest. We want you to disappear from the face of the earth, and we've got guns and so on. And they said, no problem. Please bring your guns. Come and have some coffee with us. So anyway, I mean, there's no standing outside is difficult. It's a difficult job. So they came inside, then they all sat down, they said, okay, we'll have some coffee, have some cakes, whatnot. After that, they said, let me tell you what is Islam. Right? Keep your guns, no problem. Keep your banners, no problem. Let me tell you what is Islam. So they explained Islam. This guy was wearing a t-shirt, very offensive, obviously I'm not going to repeat that, very offensive lettering on the t-shirt against Islam. By the end of the discussion, the man took off his t-shirt, turned it inside out and put it on. He said, I'm sorry, I cannot rub it out. It's printed on the t-shirt, but at least I will not go out of here with that thing visible. So he turns it inside out and wears this t-shirt inside out. Huh? So instead of shooting up whatever that magazine was in France, or imagine driving a truck. Inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi. Truck through people. And no matter how much you want to say, oh, no, you see, this action, the man was not a Muslim. I agree with all of that. The point is, he had a Muslim name. The world sees him as a Muslim. And he did it because he thought he was doing good for Islam. Is that good for Islam? Do we need this? Why should you study the Seerah? Because of this. I am only talking to you about one single incident in Medina of Abu Sufyan coming there, and see how many lessons there are with regard to what we need to do today. That is the reason why we need to study the Seerah. How will you introduce Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to the world when you do not know who Muhammad is sallallahu alaihi wasallam? So Abu Sufyan comes, tries to gather support for himself against Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the masjid of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam does not react, doesn't do anything, doesn't stop him, doesn't prohibit him. He doesn't say, you are a mushrik, get out of here. How can you enter this masjid? Nothing. So Abu Sufyan went back. Today, seriously, think about that we live in an inferiority complex. And we feel that, no, you see, we don't have enough arms, and we don't have enough, atomic weapons, and we don't have this, and we don't have that. And wallahi, seriously, alhamdulillah, we don't have it. Alhamdulillah, we don't have it. Because the kind of crackpots that we have, if they actually had access to nuclear weapons, we would not have a world. We would not have a world. Somebody asked me a question one day. He said, what's wrong with the world? Pakistan has nuclear weapons. Why don't they bomb Syria? Why don't they drop atomic bombs and nuclear bombs on Israel? So I started laughing. So he said, why are you laughing? I said, because you are such an idiot. You never looked at a map. I said, why don't you go look at a map? What do you think will happen if somebody drops a nuclear bomb on Israel? Who will die? Egypt will die? Syria will die? Lebanon will die? Jordan will die? You're doing a Muslim a favor? You're a bloody idiot. You've got muck in your head. You have never looked at a map. So thank God, alhamdulillah, that the weapons are in the hands of people. At least even like somebody like Donald Trump has more brains than most of the Muslims who talk like this. So good thing they don't have weapons. If they had weapons, God knows what they would. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't give. Allah gives hukumat, and that's the reason why I said yesterday, Sulh Hudaybiyah was the test. Are Muslims capable of ruling? And today we'll talk about why the test and so on and so forth. Are Muslims capable of ruling? And what was the test? The test was the test of obedience. Will you obey Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam or not? Will you allow your desire, even though your desire is a good desire, it is with ikhlas, it is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is to make umrah, will you allow the hukum of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam to say, no, we are not making umrah, will you allow this to supersede that desire or not? When the Sahaba proved, yes, we will obey Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam without question, then Allah gave them hukum. Then Allah gave them the rule. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened Makkah, and they did not have to fight for Makkah. Makkah was given to them, gift. That's why I say Makkah was a prize. They didn't need to fight for Makkah. It's a Fatha. It's an opening of Makkah. It's not a conquest, because in a conquest, even though we use the term conquest of Makkah, but it's not a conquest in the sense of fighting an army and winning a battle. There was no battle. And this is what we have to learn from the Seerah. We have to learn from the Seerah the importance of Hosh compared to Josh. The importance of wisdom, of understanding, of intelligence compared to blind emotion. Please notice, I'm not saying don't get angry. Getting angry is natural. Expressing that anger inappropriately is stupid. All emotions are value neutral. So somebody says love is a good emotion, anger is a bad emotion, that's rubbish, that's nonsense. Love is an emotion, anger is another emotion. Love expressed inappropriately causes trouble. Even though it's love. But you are showing this love in a completely inappropriate way, in an inappropriate place. Results are negative. Anger is an emotion. Expressing that anger appropriately is hugely beneficial. Your child does something. You get very angry. So what do? Whack the child. The child bounces off the wall, off the ceiling, off the floor, bounces 3 times. All his teeth fall out. Alternately, you call the child, sit him down. There's no smile on your face. You're serious. You say, look, what did you do? Is it good? What do you think? So what am I expressing here now? I'm expressing anger. There's no doubt about the fact that I am very angry, very upset with what you are doing. But do I demean you? Do I humiliate you? Do I insult you? Do I hit you? Do I beat you? No. There is no need for all that. There is no need for all that. All of that, what does it do? It only produces anger and humiliation in the person. And the person is so overwhelmed with the negative feelings that arise that your good advice goes way out of the window. The person is not capable of registering whatever good you said because the person is feeling so humiliated, because you slapped the person, you cursed the person. Now the person, where is the person even going to be able to think that what you are saying is beneficial for me? Because he is so humiliated, he is so degraded and so upset about this. No? There is this wonderful story which I sent out on the group also the other day, of this young boy who had an anger problem. You know, some people have this anger problem. They get some like a switch, and they get insanely angry, and they do all kinds of things. And later on, you ask them, "Why did you do that?" And the person says, "Really, I had no control. I didn't know. I didn't even want to do that. I regret it later." So it's a big problem. So this young boy was like this. He used to get these fits of anger. So his father called him and he gave him a bag of nails, and then he gave him a hammer. And they had a wooden fence in their yard. So his father said to him, "Look, anytime you get angry, before you scream and so on, go there, take a nail, hammer it into the fence. So do that before you yell and scream." Obviously, when he goes and he hammers the nail and so on, the anger comes out. So he saves himself from making a fool of himself. So this boy did that. He kept this thing. Few months passed. After that, the boy came back to the father. He brought the bag of nails and the hammer, and he said, "Dad, I think I've overcome my problem. I'm not getting these fits of anger anymore. Thank you very much. Here's what you gave me." So the father says to him, "No, hold on." He says, "Now take the hammer." You know, the hammer has the nail, the hook at the back to pull out nails. So he said, "Now take the hammer, go to the fence, and pull out all the nails that you hammered into the fence." The boy says, "Okay." He goes to the fence, he pulls out all the nails that were hammered into the fence. Brings them back. So the father says to him, "Now go back and look at the fence." So the boy goes back. And what does the fence look like? It's full of holes. Because the nails got pulled out. So the boy comes back. The father asks him, "So how's the fence?" He says, "Dad, the fence has a lot of holes." So the father says, "Yes, you can pull out the nail, but you can't remove the hole. So you get angry, you say something, and then you say, 'No, I'm extremely sorry.' Fine, you pulled out the nail. The person even forgave you, but the hole is there. The hole is still there. So what is a way of ensuring that there is no hole? Keep your mouth shut in the first place. Don't react. Respond. Respond. To get angry where there is a justified reason to get angry is fair. Not to get angry means either you are too stupid to understand what happened, or Allah knows what. It's a natural emotion. To express that anger, we have a choice. Should I express it at all? If the answer is yes, I should express it, how must I express it? What are the different options that I have to express this anger? Right? That one Charlie Hebdo, I just remember the name of that magazine. That one incident alone, I sat and generated, I think, 10 or 15 different ways in which this whole thing could have been responded to. Of course, none of that happened. What happened, happened. And then we say, oh, but you see, that was a false flag operation and the French did it to themselves and so on. My point is, say whatever you want about every single one of the incidents. First and foremost, you can't live in denial all your life. Not every incident is a false flag operation. I know some of them are, but not everyone. And secondly, we have given ourselves such a bad reputation that even a false flag operation, people believe it. And all why? Because of reaction. And what is the first thing we learn from the life of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? We do not react. We respond. We are intelligent people. We are not puppets in the hand of somebody to make us dance the way they want. And that's why the maxim I try to use for myself. And my maxim is, I will not allow you to decide how I am going to behave. I will not allow you to decide how I am going to behave. And with that, we will take a break for some tea and snacks, and then we will come back here.